All right. Hello, everybody. It is noon and we're going to go ahead and get started. I am so happy that you've decided to join us today for this complimentary webinar. What do you need to know about retirement? What do you need to know now about retirement? And really, wherever you are right now, whether you're already retired or whether you're thinking about retiring in the next 5 years, or if you're just thinking about retiring and what it's going to look like in 30 years or after a working lifetime, I want you to know that you're in the right place right now, and we're really happy to have you here. So my name is Timothy Scott, or TJ Scott, and I am an estate planning attorney. I'm also the owner of the law office of Timothy J. Scott. And I have with me today Cathy Hietala of the Terrio Group. And Cathy is a vice president, a VP of the Terrio Group. She's also a financial advisor and a fiduciary. If you have any questions today as they come up, feel free to use either the Q&A box. If you take a look at the icons here in Zoom, you should find one that says Q&A, or you should find something called chat, and you can put the questions there. We have some time reserved at the end today to address those questions for you, and we'll make sure to get to them so everybody can have their questions addressed. But again, welcome. We're really happy to have you here today.
Whoops, back up here. Okay, see, I'm starting off with a glitch here. My slide is not moving. Okay. Oh dear. Okay. Well, start here. You can see my April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month, right? And I don't know why. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm Cathy Hietala, Vice President of the Terrio Group, financial advisor, fiduciary. In 2004, the federal government passed a bill to bring about financial awareness during the month of April. In a snapshot, there's a lot of people in America that don't know what options are out there for them and don't understand how they work. And that's why TJ and I have come together today to help educate and answer any questions that you may have. It's our goal to help you learn what you need in retirement. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot to think about, and we want to help you know what questions to ask, because it's about you knowing what it is that you have, how it works, and what is it doing for you specifically in your situation. And we'll bring you up to date on changes in the law that may affect your retirement plan and financial plan. Excuse me. The biggest question I get is, when can I retire, or how much money do I need to retire? And there is no one answer, because it would be putting you in a box. So we created what we call the 8 elements of financial control, because it's about you being in control of your money. And it starts with optimizing your income in retirement, knowing what you have and creating enough guaranteed income to cover your fixed expenses with inflation. And then we look at the emergency builder. That's having enough liquidity for those unexpected yet expected events in life, like a new furnace in February or April. And then there's the revenue replacer. That's taking care of your loved ones beyond your years. That could be a spouse, a significant other, a child, or someone with special needs that will need income coming in for the rest of their life, well beyond yours. Then we look at building your assets. That's making sure that you have enough diversity, and it's more than a number of stocks and bonds. That's looking at different vehicles, different sectors, to make sure that no matter what happens in the markets, you're going to be protected. And how do you take distributions from your assets in the most tax efficient manner? And how has the Secure Act changed that? Legacy enhancer is, how do you want to leave your legacy? Do you want to leave money to your beneficiaries when you're gone, or do you want to enjoy your legacy while you're still alive? Maybe take a vacation, help pay for college, things like that, or a little bit of both. Legacy defender is really defending that legacy. And you worked so long and hard to get to where you're at and you've saved and you've done everything right, make sure you defend it. For example, if you have rental property, you want to have that in an LLC to protect you. Make sure you have your insurances, your homeowner's car insurance, and then look at long-term care and health care. That can be the biggest drainer of assets in retirement. So you want to make sure that you have your assets set up, that you have enough for those what ifs in life. Dynasty creator, that's working with wonderful attorneys like Timothy Scott to set up those wills, your trusts, your healthcare directive and power of attorney, and your beneficiaries, especially if you've gotten divorced. You want to make sure those beneficiaries are always up to date. And tax planning really encompasses all 8 areas, and we look at inflation with that as well. Once we have all that, then we can make an educated decision to the best time to retire for you to get the most out of retirement. I feel like putting you in a box is putting you at risk, because you really need to understand your time horizon. What's your health history? What's your family longevity? And when we look at a tax or rate of return, I hear people say, well, I'm getting a 10% rate of return. But after you take out what could possibly be 3-4% in fees, you're taxed on that. What are you putting in your pocket at the end of the day? That's the number we want to know, and we want to optimize, because that's what the money you're going to have to spend, right? And when we determine your spending needs, we'll create a budget together. And it's not about taking anything away, but it's about creating a budget that's going to get the most out of retirement for you. And then we look at your risk tolerance, and it's more than just putting an age or 10 years to retirement, putting a number to it. It's really taking all those 8 elements. What is your longevity? What are your assets invested in? What is your comfort level? We look at all that when we determine what kind of risk to take with your assets. The second question I get is, at what age should I take Social Security? And that's going to be different for everyone. Some people want to retire early and, before age 62. Some people want to work until as long as they can, until they're in their 70s or 80s. So that'll change. And Social Security, there's a lot to it, and it continues to change. Right now, you can take Social Security as early as age 62. However, if you do that, you'll be taking a permanent reduction from what could be your full retirement benefit. And if you want to continue to work, they only allow you to earn a certain amount before they start taking those Social Security dollars away. Now, if you wait to your full retirement age, then you get your full retirement plus you're allowed to work. And if you wait to age 70, you get your maximum retirement. So what we do is we'll take those 8 elements, your goals, and put them in our financial software, and we'll do side-by-side comparisons. We'll run it. If you pull Social Security age 62, what does your retirement look like? How far will your money get you living the retirement that you want? We'll do the same reports for your full retirement age and at age 70, so that you can see side by side in black and white what's the best option for you. And then we'll continue to do that every year until you make that decision, because we know that life changes, and so does Social Security. So this is, I pulled right from the Social Security website, so you can go on there and look yourself. This tells your full retirement age. So if you're born between 43 and 54, it's age 66, and then it goes up every year. If you're born 1960 or later, your full retirement age will be 67. Then we go into the Secure Act. This was enacted January 1 of 2020. A couple of things came out of this. One is required minimum distributions, changed from age 70 and a half to age 72. So this is a positive for a lot of people. For those that don't have to take money out of their qualified retirement plans, their IRAs, you can now wait to age 72. For some people, you may be working, or you may have like 2 Social Security checks coming in, 2 pensions. You don't have to take out of your IRAs. So now you can wait until 72 until the government makes you take that out so they can tax you on it. Now, a negative that came out of it was the stretch IRA is now gone. It used to be you could inherit an IRA and stretch it throughout your lifetime. Take out a small amount every year, for the rest of your life until you pass away, and then you could pass it on to your beneficiaries who could at that time do the same thing. Now you have to take that money out of the qualified IRA within 10 years, by the end of the 10th year, or there's high penalties. And this affects trusts. An accumulation trust is one thing that it affects. If you have an accumulation trust, that IRA can be left to the trust as a beneficiary. However, the IRA will need to pay out to someone or it can pay out to the trust. Now, if it pays out to the trust, it can remain in the trust and then pay out to your loved ones as you wish. This helps a lot of people monitor and maybe help that loved one that's not as good with money. However, the taxes in the trust can be higher than that of an individual. So to give you an example, you have a $500,000 IRA that you inherited, and you have a hypothetical growth rate of 5% interest. Pays out $1,000 per month. And at the end of 10 years, you're going to have over $600,000 in that account that now is going to have to dump out of that account. So if it dumps out into the trust and stays in there, it could be taxed as high as 37%, starting at $12,500. And for an individual to have that 37% tax rate, they have to earn more than $523,600, and that's a marginal tax rate. So the bottom line is it's really important to work with estate planning attorneys like Timothy Scott, as well as advisors at the same time, to make sure you set up this planning the right way. And even more important, and if you have an accumulation trust or a trust that was set up prior to this or around the same time that this change was being made, I recommend going back and reviewing that, or give Timothy Scott a call and say, have him review it to make sure that it's still set up so that the Secure Act won't hurt it. Then we look at budgeting. That's really, when we create that, we look at your fixed expenses and your discretionary expenses, and what is your guaranteed income, and are there any gaps? If there are, how can you change that? One, you can spend less, you can earn more, you can continue working longer, change when you take Social Security, work part-time, work a side business, or you can diversify your investing. You can look at different portfolios that may gain you a little more. You can look at different vehicles. There's a lot of different vehicles that can really secure income in retirement. Or you can win the lottery, which is my favorite. I just need to buy tickets. One last thing that's really near and dear to my heart is the special needs. I'm guardian and conservator of a family member who is both mentally and physically disabled. And so I have to bring this up to everybody because it's detrimental that your plan is set up the right way. And even if you have two children and one has special needs and one doesn't, and even if the special needs is a ward of the state and has a conservator and guardianship through a company, through someone else, they will still inherit half your estate if you don't have anything set up. And that will knock them off their funding. So I want people to know that that is true. So make sure that you set up the trust in a special type of trust for special needs to make sure they're taken care of and they don't get knocked off their government funding. That's just imperative and near and dear to my heart. I also recommend working with a financial advisor and an estate planning attorney that understands special needs, because it has to be done right. And the last fun fact is I was doing my IRS website reading, which I do in my spare time, and I found this little fun fact. IRS does not allow checks in the amount of more than $100 million. Now you know. With that, I'd like to hand it off to Timothy to tell you more about the estate planning side of things.
Thank you so much, Cathy. That is an interesting fun fact from the IRS website. I love it. So I'm also happy to know I'm not the only person who peruses tax rulings for fun facts. It's good. Okay. All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. I see we have some questions coming in. Again, if you can just hold those until the end or go ahead and put them in the chat, and we will talk about those at the end today with some question and answer time. Today, I really want to talk about getting your affairs in order. And that's something that Cathy talked about. It's an important part of a plan. It's an important part of a plan for retirement, is how are you going to get your things in order so that the people that you love can be taken care of in the way that you would want them to be taken care of. And if you stick around until the end today, I have a couple things I'd love to give you. The first is a complimentary 15-minute phone call with me where you can ask any questions that you have. We'll talk about things, bring your questions, bring your questions about estate planning and what the process looks like, and I'm happy to explain that to you. Plus, I have a bonus gift that I will talk about in just a little bit. The first thing that I want to talk about, I want to ask, do you have an estate plan? And I'm going to go ahead and pop a poll up here. I am not the most technically savvy person, so hopefully you can see the poll. It looks like somebody answered it, so that's good. But let's see here. I have 3 people who say yes, they do have an estate plan. What I have on the screen is kind of parts of an estate plan. None of these elements are an estate plan in and of themselves, but they make up a full estate plan. So a trust, a will, if you have minor children, a guardianship nomination, healthcare directive, which puts a healthcare agent in place to make healthcare decisions for you, power of attorney, which puts somebody to make financial decisions for you in case you're incapacitated, and beneficiary designations on things like retirement accounts and life insurance. So I'm seeing a slight weighting towards people who do have an estate plan, and that's fantastic. That's great. Another question that I have for everybody, if you don't have an estate plan, why don't you have an estate plan? And if you don't, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Worry about it, but 69% of people right now do not have an estate plan in place. And that's kind of a sobering fact when you think about all of the things that that means for their families and the people that they love. But if not, again, you're not alone. A lot of people feel like they're too busy. And if you're right on the verge of retirement, maybe now is a good time to, maybe you have some free time, that now is a good time to get an estate plan done. Or maybe you feel like you're too young, or you felt like you're too young. But really, anyone over the age of 18 should have an estate plan in place. I recently helped out a young family where the father had passed away and kind of left a mess for his wife and minor daughters. And that just doesn't have to be the case. You can get things in place to make sure that those people are taken care of if something happens to you. Maybe you feel like it's too expensive. I'm not seeing anybody saying that it's too expensive, but I have really good news in that area. Right now, we are living in a world of word processors, and estate planning and financial planning are really more affordable than they ever have been. And I know Cathy can speak to that, and I can definitely speak to that too. Or maybe you're worried about jinxing yourself. And again, I'm not seeing anybody who is willing to fess up to the fact that they're worried about jinxing themselves, but I can tell you, I have not seen a correlation between people having an estate plan done and having an adverse effect in their lives. I always say my clients tend to live a better life, a fuller life, because they've got it taken care of. It's not on their shoulders anymore. Whether you have an estate plan in place or not, I do have some news for you. And that news is that the state has a plan for you. Unfortunately, it's a plan you probably won't like. And that's because the plan looks like this. It looks like a judge in court making decisions for you. And so if the issue is that you haven't taken the time to appoint a healthcare agent, there is a court process for that called guardianship. Or if you haven't appointed a financial agent yet, there's a court process for that called conservatorship. If you don't have a guardian and you have minor children, there's a probate court process that we'll talk about in just a minute. Also, if you have assets left in your personal name, and what that means is that you don't have a trust in place, you don't have something that's going to govern those personal assets like a beneficiary designation or a trust, then there is that probate case that you need to go through. If the issue is that you haven't decided who's going to receive your assets, well, the state has a solution for that, and that is the intestate statutes, which is something that Cathy made a reference to. If you pass away and you have 2 kids, guess what? It's going half and half. Whether you like it to, whether that makes sense or not, that's what the state is going to do if you haven't made an election about how you want those assets to go. If you have a special needs recipient of your assets, then there's going to need to be a spend down and a reapplication for any government benefits that they have, which again is something that Cathy talked about. Or if you just have disorganized assets, maybe you haven't gotten the time or had the time to really get them all together, or you don't have a great financial agent like Cathy, there is the Minnesota Department of Unclaimed Property that can accept those assets on your behalf and hold on to those assets, even though you would really rather have your heirs or the people that you love receive them. So I told you that we talk about the probate process, and here is what that probate process looks like. Probate is really a lawsuit that you file against yourself for the benefit of your creditors, and you have to file that lawsuit against yourself with your own money, which is a pain. Probate in Minnesota is really slow. It takes a minimum of 6 months to get through probate. More often it's 12 or 18 months. And the slowness is something that is kind of a feature of probate. We need to have time for all of your creditors to come forward and make sure that they get paid. And so the way that we do that, we have certain notice periods and times that are delayed, or that provide delay for the creditors to come forward and make their claims known. Also, it just takes a lot of time to organize everything and make sure that everything is going to go to the right place. But that's something that you can take care of ahead of time. Probate is not mandatory. It's an option that you can choose by not having something like a fully funded living trust in place, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Probate in Minnesota is also expensive. There are lots of fees. Attorney's fees are one of the highest fees that you're going to be paying. But probate in Minnesota costs somewhere between 3 to 6% of the gross value of your estate. And we can actually look at what that might look like for you. So here you can see I have an example of a probate estate, or an example of somebody's gross estate. You can see they have a family home, vacation home, some furniture and household goods, automobiles, stocks and bonds, and business as well. And you can see how it adds up. Again, I said probate is generally estimated to be 3 to 6% of your gross estate. And a quick way that you can get to 5% is you add up and total everything. You move the comma over one place, which in this case would be 85,000. And then you divide that number in half. And so that's how I got to that $42,500. I'm not a math whiz, but I was able to get to that number that way. And you might be able to do some back of the envelope math yourself to figure that out. An added wrinkle, if you have minor children and you have put them as beneficiaries on life insurance or beneficiaries on your retirement accounts, unfortunately, those assets also need to find a home. Minors can't receive that money outright. So what we would be looking at then is needing to find a custodian, needing to find somebody to be able to hold onto those assets for those minor beneficiaries. But again, there's a foolproof way to avoid probate, a foolproof way to take care of the people that you love and make sure that they don't have to go through that probate process, that everything is organized, clear, and clean for when you aren't there and you're not able to take care of them. And the foolproof way is by fully funding a living trust. Beneficiary designations are great. If you have minor children, they can't necessarily get you all the way to avoiding probate. Really, a fully funded living trust is the guaranteed way to do it. And so what fully funding a living trust means is having an attorney write a living trust for you, a revocable living trust, and then making sure that you go and get all of your assets into the trust. Let me tell you, the number one best thing to have when you're trying to fund your trust is a financial advisor like Cathy who can help you out, because it does take some work, but it's also very possible. It's very doable. You're going to need to retitle your investment accounts in the name of the trust, sign new signature cards at the bank, execute deeds to real property so that real property is also in the trust, transfer stock and bond certificates, assign personal property, and also change beneficiary designations on things like life insurance and retirement accounts to make sure that they are in the trust. And let me make this easy for you. Like I say, I want to give you a 15-minute phone call with me where you can ask your questions. And I'm going to go ahead and post this in the chat if I can find it. But I want you to schedule that 15-minute phone call with me and just talk to me about what questions you have. But also, if you want to know what the estate planning process looks like, I can tell you more about it in that 15-minute phone call. And I can also give you a $750 value family wealth planning session with me. And the reason that it's $750 is because it's 2 hours where we'll sit down and we'll look at all your assets and we'll look at the people that you love. And we'll talk about exactly what your current estate plan would either do if you have an estate plan already, or again, if you don't have an estate plan right now, what the state's plan for you would do, and what that would look like for you and the people that you love really is what it would look at. So I'm going to go ahead now and kick it back over to Cathy so that we can take your questions and answer your questions together. And Cathy, it looks like you're still muted if you can.
There we go.
Perfect.
Technical difficulties, sorry. Yeah, I did see a couple questions in the chat box. And are you able to bring those up?
Yeah. I see a question here. If you have both Roth IRA and a SEP IRA, do you recommend drawing down the Roth IRA first in retirement and let the Roth continue to grow, or do you have to draw both down after date of retirement?
That's a good question, and it's one that's common to a lot of people because a lot of people do have both a Roth and some sort of qualified traditional IRA, 401k, 403b. And the best answer I can give is it's going to be an individual decision for everyone, and that's where a financial plan is important to do at that time. It's going to depend on, one, if you're under age 72 and you have to draw out of that IRA, how much money are you bringing in? What is your guaranteed income? Are you still working? So what's your income and what's that tax status? Where's your taxes? So it's going to be, it could be that you're bringing in a lot of money right now based off different scenarios. And so you may want to draw out of that Roth. But really a financial plan is the way to look at it, so we can really look at the taxation of it and then make a decision from there. But it's good to have that strategy. So it's going to be different for everyone. Sorry, there is no direct answer.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's something that you could really address in a one-on-one meeting with you and get really clear on their assets and what their current income looks like and give them a good recommendation. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I am, like you, offering a free consultation or no cost consultation. And just for joining us today and being a part of it. And it never costs anything to give me a call and ask a question. I welcome questions.
Nice. Good. I see another question here. If my wife and I did a living trust over 5 years ago, do you offer a tune-up consultation to our existing trust? And absolutely, that's something that I offer. That complimentary family wealth planning session goes for people who have an estate plan already in place, something like a trust in place. I'm happy to read that trust and review it and let you know exactly what that trust says and what it's going to mean for your assets and the people that you love. Again, if you don't have an estate plan in place, that's fine too. I'm happy to take a look at your assets and take a look at the people that you love and tell you what the state has planned for you, because everyone really does have an estate plan in place. Just some people have Minnesota writing it for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think for people that have an older trust with this new Secure Act in place, I would recommend having someone like you at least read through it and let them know if it's still in good standing or if changes need to be made.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's really a substantial change, the way that they've done things. So any other questions, anyone? Everyone's so quiet. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, but again, we really appreciate you joining us today. This has been fun for us, and we'll send out a recording here of this presentation. I'm seeing somebody asking, what is your phone number? And it looks like both of our phone numbers are posted up on the screen right now. Hopefully you can see that. Otherwise, I can, yeah, I don't know what the, Cathy, do you want to post your phone number in the chat?
Yeah, if I can get to the chat. There it is.
That's my phone number. You can reach me directly with that phone number. Perfect. Good.
There we go.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us on this, wintry day in April. And we hope that you've learned something. Feel free to, here, let me see. Cathy, I'm not sure that yours went to the entire group. I think it might have just come to me. So I'll just go ahead and copy paste. Yep.
Thank you.
To make sure that it gets to everybody. So thanks again. And hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay warm out there and take care. Bye.
Thank you.